Bear with me, guys. I'm trying something new here. I'll explain in a second why I need to learn something new in order to stream live. Wow, what a delay. Okay, release is working. I'll be back in a second. If I do this, is it going to crash? Am I going to crash? If I crash, I'll come back. There's a distinct possibility that this fails at any moment. Isn't that thinking positive? Let's see, now here and here. Here. And here. Okay, interesting. There's about a 10-second delay from live versus live. So, OG, everything sound all right? You see everything? Let me know, and I'll begin. A little old school Guinness logo, isn't that cool? Well, I thought it was cool. I don't. Alright, so it's been a while since I've done anything by way of public appearance, gaming, where you guys can see what's going on, updates, any of that stuff. So that's what this is going to be. Where to begin? So first of all, I start to try to live stream, and if the music is too loud, let me know, I'll turn it down. In fact, I should probably do that now. You guys can figure out who that is. Feel free to make guesses. So anyway, yeah, I was going to live stream today, and I got this weird message I've never seen before, right? And it says, you must have 1,000 subscribers to live stream. And I don't have a webcam on my computer. I don't have a camera that I can film on. All I have is this phone. So I was like, wow, that's great. I mean, I could still film something and upload it, but it's just a pain in the butt, and it takes forever to upload. Live streaming, it's already there pretty much. There's also negatives to live streaming, but I can live with that. So I'm thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do, right? This is retarded. And I think I understand why YouTube is doing this. I think it is a PR move in light of recent, well, what, in New Zealand, Christchurch, wasn't that live streamed? The horrible event that happened. I think YouTube is possibly attempting to prevent live streams of horrible atrocities. It's super easy to create an account and not have any subscribers and just live stream whatever the hell you want, and I don't know how long it takes before the YouTube bots or filters or whatever catch it. So that's my theory as to why they've gone this route and changed this. I doubt it's a server issue or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure YouTube, the folks over there, everything they got can handle pretty much everybody live streaming. Maybe not, I don't know. Or I'm way off track and I have no idea. Anyway, I thought I'd give you guys a heads up for those of you like me who don't have 1,000 or more subscribers. You know, I've been on YouTube for doing this, I don't know, 2012, 2013, I don't remember. It's been a while though. And the subscribers that I have, I am thoroughly thankful for, you know, overly appreciative. Because it's been hard for me to get subscribers for whatever reason. You know, I get it, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Maybe it's the way I talk, maybe it's because I clear my throat 500,000 times in a video, or what have you. But I only have, over all those years, I'm just under 600 subscribers. And to make 1,000, that means, you know, how many more years is it going to take for me to get that? Because I think I'm averaging like 100 subscribers a year. So I did a little research, and then for those of you in the same boat that don't have 1,000 subscribers, that want to be able to live stream from your mobile device, right? There are options. Now that I say that, I forgot what I just downloaded. I'll be right back. There are options. One of them being, I think it's live streams. Is that what it is? See, this is the problem with filming live, right? You forget stuff. Is it streams? You know what? I don't remember what it is. Suffice to say, there are apps that you can download. I'll put a link to what I'm using here, or I'll put what I'm using here. I'm sorry, I can't remember what I'm using. Below this video when I'm able to do that. And then you guys, again, if you're in the same boat as me, you have less than 1,000 subscribers, you want to live stream with your mobile device, you download this app. I've gotten verification that it's safe, it's free, it works, at least so far for me it's been working. So there's options. Now, what else? Back to the issue at hand. I feel like I'm all over the place here. Alright, back to the issue at hand. A little bit of everything here. I almost considered doing like a sorry, I'm reading a comment here. I almost considered doing a bona fide Hexes and Soldiers podcast. I mean, there's enough content here that I'm going to present. I could have easily done so, but I didn't want to go that route. I considered putting it on Facebook that I will be doing maybe another war talk or whatever, but I guess I get nervous. So, you know, if you catch me, good for you. If not, you know, to make a impending, gonna happen event thing out of this, I don't know. Over time, I get too nervous. So here I am, and here's gonna be a little showy telly stuff. Right? OG says Facebook is a great place to put your videos up and join groups. Yeah. Exposure, exposure, exposure. You're correct, sir. So, what's new? Summer's here. So, and let me back up, alright? Bear with me. I got a few things to say, okay? It's been a while. I always remember in the early days of doing the podcast, I don't know if it was like 3rd, 4th, 5th episode, I started out from the bat sharing, divulging personal things about myself and my life, to an extent, not everything. And I always remember a comment I got when somebody picked up on what was happening, and they said, "Hey man, you're talking about personal things, and we don't know who you are, and this really doesn't mean anything to us." And you're right, maybe at the time it didn't, or maybe it still doesn't. But if for those of you that have followed along with me along this journey for as long as I've been doing it, maybe you feel a little less impersonal in regards to you and I. So, and I always wanted it to be that way. And you know, you can only talk about what you know, and I guess I don't know anything better than my life, so I feel inclined. I have a proclivity to share what I know, that being my existence. So, and I wanted that Well, I talked about this in the No One Means Here video. I'm always a big fan of the community, more of the personal aspect, and instead of just talking like you're removed from what you're talking about, I don't know, it doesn't appeal to me. I like the personal thing, so yeah, I share personal aspects of my life. So it's summer. I don't know how I feel about that. That means heat, right? New Orleans heat. The winter was not as bad as last year. I didn't have pipes freezing and bursting. So that's a good thing. But yeah, summer is fast upon us. There's festivals left and right down here. If you guys live nearby or considering coming to New Orleans, look it up. There's always something going on. Jazz Fest is coming up. Mardi Gras just happened, and that really lasts like a month and a half, 2 months of just continuous parades and general debauchery and mayhem in a good way, usually. So summer's here. That also means this time of year, and that's another excuse, maybe a poor one, excuse that I have for not being quite so present on these media hoo-ha whatnots. It's playoff hockey season, and the end of the year just wrapped up. St. Louis Blues just went from, on January 2nd last in the entire NHL, right? Fired a coach, brought a goalie up from the farm team because we were desperate. Well, who would have thunk it? This goalie has gone on to be fantastic. He's been somewhat of a savior for the team, as has been the coach, as has been the team in general. They've all just lifted themselves up by the bootstraps, and long story short, as of yesterday, they were in the position to fight for first place in the Central Division. So they've really come a long way. Playoffs start Wednesday. We'll be playing the Winnipeg Jets, and depending on how deep we go playoff run-wise, will again determine how often you see me, because I'll be doing a lot of hockey watching, and not just the Blues. This is when I watch pretty much all the teams, because playoff hockey, honestly, there's nothing like it. It's the fastest, quickest, most exciting thing. You know, you could drink 30 cups of coffee and it wouldn't compare to playoff hockey. So got that going for me. And what else do we have? By way of more personal information, today is Sunday. Do you know what I do on Sundays? You guys have any idea of my ritual? It is bloodless and it involves no pain. But I do go to the Nirvana Indian buffet every Sunday. I don't know how most of you feel about Indian food, but I'm a big fan of it and I highly recommend it. Again, for those of you that live nearby or plan on coming through New Orleans, the last place you probably want to eat is Indian food. In the South, you want fried, greasy, I don't know, collard greens or something. I don't like most of that stuff. Gumbo's okay, jambalaya is okay, but the red beans, throw them out the window. There's a lot of stuff that is considered traditional food fare here in New Orleans. I want nothing to do with it. It just tastes like crap. I don't mean to offend anybody, but it does. So I go to Indian buffet on Sunday, and it's fantastic. It's Nirvana. It's on Magazine Street. And then when I'm done with that, there's 3 record stores along the same street. So it's a nice little walk, or I guess it'd be better to drive, but when you're done with that, hit the 3 record stores. This is my ritual every Sunday. I'm glad you asked, right? No, you didn't ask, but I'm telling you. So that was interesting. Again, I do that every Sunday. One of these days I'm going to film from there and share from the restaurant. Those people, I don't know what they think, but I know they know, because they recognize me. Every Sunday that guy comes in, and I wonder what they think about that. But for those of you that are impatient, you're like, where are you going with all this? I don't know. I'm just chatting here. I do have some things that are game related, I promise. But I'm in a chatty mood, so I guess soak it up when you can, because this doesn't happen often. Hockey playoffs. New games. Have I gotten any new games? Yeah, I guess I have. I don't know if I've let you guys know this yet. And I guess this opens the gaming stuff proper. Finally picked up this. I've been aware of this for a while. I've seen some reviews, I've watched some playthroughs. It's always piqued my interest, but picked that up, and the odd story behind that is the website for this, Omega Games, right? Is that what it is, Omega Games? Yeah. I go to this website and it looks like I've gone through a time machine that's taking me back to 1989 or something. This website is so outdated. I was hesitant to think that it was even still like working and functioning like it should be. Like this was something this guy created way back when and then just stopped and forgot about it. And so I thought, I don't know if I can pay for anything on this site, or if I do, with this is gonna like sit in purgatory forever. My payment, nothing's gonna happen. So I'm not gonna explain what I did because it's unfair to the guy. There might be some dishonest people out there that see this. Not to imply that anybody dishonest would watch this show, but there might be somebody out there that maybe is curious and wants to see if they get the same result. But there's a glitch in the website, and I'm almost positive it's because of the website's age. And I did something, then I didn't do something, and I thought, okay, just hell with it. I'm not buying this game. About a week later, the game shows up, and I hadn't paid for it. So I contacted the gentleman with an email, and I said, hey, check your sales stuff, because I think you sent me a game without my actually paying for it. In fact, I know he did. He never got back with me, so I guess I got a free game. But if you want to obtain this from his website, it is still available, it is still for sale. Prompt shipping service and delivery. So that's the story behind that. I also have Ranger, great game, OG says. I wish I still had a copy. Great thing is you can really use any topographical map in the right scale. And you are correct about that. Another reason why, and you always have to remember this with me, I rarely get a game just to get a game. A lot of times, 9 times out of 10, I'm getting a game with the intention of tweaking it and juxtaposing it onto something else, like a totally different map that doesn't come with it. So I thought, there may be some things I can draw from this and apply to like World War II, Normandy type thing. And I still have that Axis and Allies kind of fondness. I'm not an Axis and Allies nut, but I had never had this. The Pacific. Pacific always comes second to European theater, but I thought this might be a hoot to play one night, or if you have somebody that isn't heavily into war games, this is something that is easily digestible. So I picked that up. Plus that completes pretty much my Axis and Allies collection. I'm a completist. What else? Did I show you guys this? Panzer Expansion 4? Why did I get this? Well, yes, I already have Panzer. Do you need this? No, you don't need this, but you want this. Why? Because there is a Solitaire game engine in here to help you run. What I've noticed is there's very, very few scenarios in here that coincide with the Solitaire system. So I don't know if that is something that is required. Oh, and look at this. Expansion 3, still in the shrink. I haven't even opened it. But I haven't delved deep enough into this 1940 Expansion 4 to determine if it is reliant on the specific solo scenarios that are available for the solo system. That is yet to be determined. What else? Is it time for the showy telly stuff? Oh, one more thing. I have a minor update. On the second issue of the X's and Soldiers magazine. I finally got verification from Eric Lee Smith, who has mentioned he wanted to do an article for the last one, ran out of time. In fact, he contacted me post issue 1 release and said, hey, are you still interested in an article? Definitely, by all means, yes. So he's on board officially. with an article for the second issue of Hexes and Soldiers, easy for you to say, magazine. And I wonder how the feed level is on this. It keeps fluctuating. I don't know if that's determining how I come out, whatever. So the second issue of Hexes and Soldiers magazine, Eric Lee Smith. I have a tentative cover that I've done for it, very happy with it. It's the little things I've found that inspire me and drive me such that I continue to see a thing to an end, right? I have to have, when I used to write, it was a certain word, or maybe it was a color. It sounds odd, I know, but these things, though on the surface they might seem trivial, they really were the inertia that pushed me through to the end of a project. So with the Hexes and Soldiers magazine, with pretty much all my games that I've done, I think it begins with the cover art, right? And it sets the mood, the tone, the feel. If I feel inspired by the cover and I feel good about that, that's going to push me through to the end, typically, of a game. I don't know how it is for other folks, but that's how it is for me. So the Hexes and Soldiers magazine, on tap unless I don't get any other contributions or an act of God or nature occurs. Hoping by the next Christmas we can get that out. And I think that covers it. And by way of the chit-chatty stuff, now it does. One last thing, I promise. Notice a thread on Board Game Geek, and you know, so many of these threads, I swear people are just posting things just to see. It's not out of genuine, sincere interest by the person posting the thread. How do I know this? I don't. It's a theory. But very rarely do I feel like there's a sincere inquiry into gaming. Again, a lot of these things, sorry to sound this way, but it seems like a popularity contest to see how many responses they can get or how many thumbs or whatever, because based on some of these questions, I don't know. But I did notice a post recently, and the guy seemed fairly concerned because he said, hey, I found that when I get a game, I don't, it's not that I play them as much as I did at one time. Once I learn it and get the gist of it, I seem to kind of grow tired of it and move on. And in response to that, I would say you're definitely not alone. That's where I'm at. Anymore nowadays, if I get a new game, more often than not, it's because there's an underlying interest in the system, the mechanics of the game. So if I'm playing a game to get better at it or benefit from some sort of strategy and or tactic, it's in relation to a game that I typically already know how to play. When it comes to a new game, again, I'm more fascinated by how the thing works. Once I learn it and have it set up, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking it down and moving to the next thing. I don't know what it is about systems. I guess I'm a systems freak. But my point is that guy's not alone. I think it's probably more common than he would realize. I don't know that it's an alarming thing. If you're content doing that, if you know, the same token, if you're content doing whatever it is that you're doing, why worry about is it the right way, or that's not how somebody else does it, or should I be doing it differently? Because if you're enjoying yourself, what difference does it make, right? Nobody has to care other than you. So, oh, no enemies here. Yeah, hey Dan, how you been, man? You know, Dan, I tried to send a music link from YouTube to you. I thought it would be something you would enjoy. And being that I'm so tech savvy, right, I couldn't figure it out. And your phone number, apparently the phone number I have for you is all messed up. So that's another story. I'll get it to you at some point because I know you have a fine interest in music, and I think we have a lot of similar interests musically. So I'll try and get that to you. What are you talking? Only till Mifune can wear a man bun. Yeah, I know, I got problems, man. I need to take the scissors to this hair and get rid of it and just be done with it. I get it. Cheers, yeah, you're correct, sir. You guys slay me. You slay me. What should I show you first? Let's go to this. There's going to be some jarring and motion sickness, so I hope you took your Dramamine. I'll bring it down here. There's a nice glare. That's awesome. Love glares. Where are we at here? Here we go. Oh yeah, what a great glare. That's nice. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get over that. Again, the benefit of live streaming. Jesus. Everywhere I go, there's a glare here, right? Wait, we had it. How about right? Don't you love the nice ceiling fan that I have up there, right above the table? There's gotta be a way. You guys enjoying this yet? That's probably the best we're gonna get. Oh, Jesus. See, there's a 10-second, ooh, that's not bad. I was gonna say there's a 10-second delay, so I can't see what the adjustment has rendered until 10 seconds later. Sorry about the glare, y'all. Might be the best we get. Impromptu. What are we looking at? This is Red Factory's Defenders of Stalingrad. That is scenario 3. It only uses a very small portion of the massive inventory of maps that come with this game. And what's the situation here? This is the Red October Factory, October 25th, 1942. I'm not going to read the history to you, but suffice to say, the Russians will win by the end of this scenario if they control all ground level hexes in building T-22, which is this massive, huge factory here. And at first sight, setup was interesting, to say the least. It was an alternative taking turns kind of setup. So the Russians would set up in a specific area, and then the Germans set up second, and then the Russians set up third and fourth in various areas. They weren't all always already in or near the main building of interest. So what I had to do was CX a number of squads, and so that they can move a little bit further, get them here. Time is always of the essence, right? Get them in the factory. The Germans, they seem to have their work cut out for them, as was the case through the whole damn war, specifically Stalingrad. They are outnumbered. Even command and control leadership for the Russians is to their advantage, which is interesting. Now the Germans have some toys. Got a flamethrower, a couple medium machine guns, a heavy machine gun, demolition charges. The Russians have a couple demolition charges as well. I mean, I get it. I understand what is being portrayed here, and they do it effectively. It's just going to be a slaughter fest. I mean, it is what it was. It's close combat, dirty, gritty fighting, and it comes off well represented in this scenario. I'm not done with it yet, but things are going to get nasty quick. The Germans got to move in here and take it. You can't just sit back and, you know, pop shots off at the Russians, and with constantly having the +3 building modifiers soak up hits, etc. So they got to move in, and it's just going to be nasty, close in fighting, close combat, etc. But the Russians also have assault fire capability. as do I think some of the Germans. Yeah, some of the Germans do too, but the Russians specifically benefit more so from this assault fire, and that is important because after moving, they get a bonus, which helps them in the advancing fire phase. So there's that. But really, it's just a damn mess, and this scenario definitely has a specific flavor and feel to it. You kind of got to be in the mood for it. I still don't know if I'm in the mood for it. I find myself pining for the fjords, the open, rolling hills and dales and countryside. But again, this is what it was. It was dirty, nasty. The terrain is just treacherous. I mean, to move through the fire hindrances, etc. It's just a mess. But it's all portrayed quite accurately in this scenario. Now that you're done being blinded by the glare, let me see if I can bring you back. I got a couple more showy-telly things to share. Let me preface the next showy-telly. What? Blast Pop, I have a solo game of ASL right now. What are you playing, Blast Pop? And are you using Solitaire ASL like Sassel, or your own kind of homebrew stuff? Not smart. That's Dan. Stop. You're overwhelmed by all the rules and stuff. It's not that hard. Get the ASL Starter Kit 1. It's not hard. That's an old phallus. Everybody thinks that, and that's a joke. I know how to say fallacy. Rock and Low looks like my new go-to tactical system. Well, to each their own. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people are die-hard Rock and Low tactical fans. I'm not one of them, but I get it. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. The glare wasn't bad. My head gives off more glare. See, you guys are comedians. Just play both sides as best I can. You know, there's so much truth to that. A lot of people I talk to, they say, oh, is there a solitaire system for that? That game looks great. Can you play it solo? Anything, almost just about anything can be played solo. You know, you can play chess solo, right? You just got to be fair on both sides. So, yeah, hats off. I'm going to grab another one of these. I'll be right back, and then we'll get into the next showy-telly thing. So, hang tight. Dan, Chris Chelios, I talked to him and he said to say hi, by the way. I don't know if that means anything to you. Alright, the next showy-telly item. These I've had for quite some time. And every time I've meant to share them with you guys and I've forgotten that I have them, or time has run out, or, you know, people's attention span only lasts so long these days, me included. But being that I work at the main library of downtown New Orleans, strangely enough, there are two basements. It's not common to have a basement in New Orleans, for obvious reasons. But there are two basements full, chock full of stuff, be it state government documents. For whatever reason, we are used as kind of a suppository or repository for documents, and federal documents as well. So the cool thing is, in the basement that I have access to, and yes, there's a basement I don't have access to, and in theory that's where I think they have the X-Files. And they have filmed, movie studios had filmed in our basement. I think an episode of Preacher was filmed in the basement I have access to. Anyway, lots of cool World War II tons of World War I stuff. Tons of it. I don't know why there's so much of it, but books, publications, pamphlets, and these are things that were produced by the government for soldiers that were fighting or going to fight, those types of things. World War II, not so much, still a little. I think what happened was, at least what I was told, is Tulane University, there was the Katrina, right? And they lost a lot of their stuff. The main library, for whatever reason, escaped unscathed. And I was told by a lot of the librarians that worked at the main library, when they found out that the main library didn't flood, they were mad because they wanted the thing to be knocked down and rebuilt and started over again. But my understanding is they allowed Tulane University to come ramshack basement 1 of stuff, and I know that we had at one point tons of World War II stuff. I think that's where most of it went. You also have the World War II History Museum. I think they've been let down there to ransack stuff. That's fine, whatever. But I was able to find and secure a few things whilst able, and this is these. So there was a time during World War II, periodically throughout the war, when these kind of like posters were produced and hung on mess halls, barracks, etc. And they're fold-out posters. On the one side you would have like the news for the week, the progress of various areas in the war, and then on the other side would be some sort of like propaganda thing, like an inspirational image, or you know, kill Japs, and seriously, stuff like that. Not anything that would be politically correct today, right? But so if I do this, where I can stand back, maybe you guys can see this. Jesus, I'm all over the place here. So what do we got? Here's the first one. And these are not reproductions. These are the actual things that were hung for the soldiers to see and read. I probably shouldn't even have these like unprotected, but here's one. Can we see this without me standing in front of it? How do I do this? How hard is this? If I lift this. So here's one. One to go. 2 down, 1 to go. Can we see that? Sort of. Now how cool is that, right? I mean, it's if you're from Japan, it's offensive, I get that, but I mean, the artwork's great. And this is the type of stuff, right? This is the type of stuff that would be hung and hopefully inspire people to kill each other and end the war quicker. That's one of them. I only got maybe half a dozen here, and then we'll move to the final thing. The next one, and there was probably 100 of these or more, but I went through every one of them and grabbed the ones that were the coolest, and I had the blessing of the gentleman to do so, so it's not like I took these without permission. Can we see that? Huh? Right? Let this do your talking. I mean, you couldn't hang something like that today probably and get away with it, but... And I've come close to using this image for the cover of a game at one time. Silence means security. When a man stands ready to fight to his last drop of blood, to his last breath of life, he doesn't do much talking. He lets his weapon do that for him. Come on, that's so hokey. But I guess they thought that would like pump the troops up and rile them up. And later, he doesn't talk about where he has been, or when, or what he did, or saw. He knows that the safety of millions depends on his silence. But as hokey as that is, this is history, man. This is what was used to inspire the troops. Physical living history. Then we have... I have a great one that I thought, you know what, I should be a nice guy and send this to John Krantz, because he would probably love it fact, I know he would. When I get to it, I'll let you know what it is. Is it this one? Yeah, this is the one. Look at this one. There we go. It is a cutaway view of obviously a submarine. This is for, I believe, what was this, for the Pacific? Yeah, this is in the Pacific, so, right? I mean, how cool is that, huh? So, you know, honestly, John, if you see this and you're interested in this, you've done a lot for me. You have. I'm not just saying that. Anyway, if you see this and you want this, John, I'll send it to you. All right? Well, there's probably a lot of people that would like this, but I say John because he's responsible for the hunters and all that stuff. But I gotta hear from John. I don't want to hear from John's cousin in Madrid or John's neighbor who was at bingo at the VFW hall. Oh, we got. In fact, you know, to be honest with you, I may just end up giving, because they're just sitting folded up. I'm not doing anything with them. I may end up giving these away at some point to y'all. What do we have? I shouldn't be treating these with such disrespect. British weapons. Check this guy out. I wonder how often that was used. Tommy gun on a motorcycle just barreling down the road. These are all actual photos. It's pretty great stuff. And just so you know, the back of these, which I was referring to, usually it had a map. And then, as I said, the news of the week or whatever, so I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, that's news map, that's what it was. And then, well, we got 2 left. 2 left. 3 left. 3 left. Bloody hell. So I'm reading on the... Don't talk to me about split personality. I work in the Dan does work. He works in the psychiatric center. He used to be a patient there, is my understanding, but now he did so well there, they decided to employ him. No, that's a joke. Happy birthday, Dan. Y'all know it's Dan's birthday, right? Yeah. Russian armored vehicles. So there they are. This was used to help troops identify their allies. So if you saw any of these, don't fire at them. I would assume this is late in the war, as the East and the West was getting closer and closer to meeting. Good stuff. Russian armored vehicles. Right? I don't think I folded that right. 2 more. Well, like I said, I've been wanting to share these with you guys for a while because I thought you'd get a kick out of them. Again, this is actual history that not a lot of people get to see. This is one of the cool ones too. Check out this. Dig or die, foxholes. You got the little fox coming out of the hole and going in the hole. Did you know a bullet will penetrate 30 inches of loose soil? Apparently it would. This is a little, promotional thing to keep you aware of how important foxholes are. This stuff's great. Let's see if I can fold this one up without destroying it. Again, these are the same prints that were produced in the 40s. They're not reprints. Last one. This is another Russian one. So the other thing I should add is all these publications that are in the basement, right? My esteemed associate is going through them and trying to clear the basement out for space reason purposes. This one's falling apart. But he has to let other institutions know that this stuff is available. If somebody wants them, they're theirs. If there's a university or somebody that says, hey, we want such and such, it's theirs to have. Disgrace. Alright. This is Soviet infantry, and it's got the weapons down here, some mortars, anti-tank guns, howitzer. And that's that. To finish what I was saying, if there's an institution that doesn't want what has been listed as available, here's the sad part. It gets recycled. So let's assume for a second that nobody wants those, and this is just hypothetical because somebody did in fact claim most of them. These would get recycled, and isn't that a shame? And then luckily my coworker knows how interested I am in this stuff. So almost on a daily basis, he's coming up to me with things going, look at this, look at that, look at this. If nobody claims it, it's yours, you know? And this has been going on for a while, so I imagine there is a ton of stuff that has yet to be claimed that at some point down the line I'll be able to go through and pick and take, and what I would most likely do is see who wants it and give it away. What am I going to do with it all? But I don't want it to get recycled, so that's why I would do that. A couple more things. I think I failed to show you guys when I came back from St. Louis this last trip. Burt Reynolds naked. That's funny you should mention that. No, I don't have a naked Burt Reynolds anything. But there's a neighborhood bar called Powell's about 4 blocks from my house. And literally there's houses, and right in smack dab in the middle of all these houses is a lounge called Powell's. In the men's bathroom they have all these wonderful 60s and 70s centerfolds from Playboy plastered all over the wall. And then I haven't been in there, but allegedly, in the women's bathroom, there's a similar thing going on, and one of those happens to be I guess Burt Reynolds did a centerfold back in the day in like the 70s or something. So there's like a Burt Reynolds with the hairy chest hair rug on a rug, Burt Reynolds on a rug. So yeah, it's funny you should mention that. And the penultimate thing I need to show you guys, or don't need to, I guess. Let's go down here. Whoop. Sorry about that. There's your Dramamine moment again. This stuff. Now there's a video, and it's probably got more views than anything I've done. And it's got like the Good, the Bad, and Ugly Ecstasy of Gold song on it as background music. And there's a number of, I got the scenery set up, and it's all the Napoleonic stuff with the guys. That's what this is. Now, I haven't fixed these since they arrived out of the baggage claim in the airport. That was a risky move, but they all survived. They just got discombobulated a little bit. But I took risk figures and based them and painted them. It is a cheap, relatively easy way to get minis to play when it comes to Napoleonics. I got cavalry, two horses to a base, and then 4 infantry to a base there. For the flags, I just printed them off and used, here's some Russians, used stick pins, right? So I was able to bring the British, they're not normally like this, again, they're all in a disarray. Spanish, Russians, British, And of course the French. Where are... This began with commands and colors, why I did this, and then they just ended up being used for everything because they work great. As far as basing the leaders, I use flags, and did it like that. Battles of Napoleon, one of my favorite games. I use them for that as well. And then my own homebrew stuff, they work perfectly for that. So then this would be some Frenchies, cavalry, not Calvary, cavalry. I still hear people say cavalry. Some infantry there. I don't mean to be a whiner, but honestly, it's cavalry, for the love of God, not Calvary. So I was happy to get these back, and you can expect to see something going on with these at a later date. I swing back and forth between World War II and Napoleonics, and I'm in my World War II swing right now, and slowly I'll swing back towards Napoleonics. Final thing. God, why am I running out of breath? You all know I got something to share. You right? You ready? I'm gonna lose cool points for this. But I've been doing yoga. I know. When you're done laughing, I'll finish. But I get no exercise. I don't want to go to the gym. I hate everything about the gym. I'm not going to run. So I need to do something, right? So I've been doing this yoga thing. I have a friend who was a good motivator, and she said, hey, let's go to... No, I'm not going to the gym. Well, no, I'm not doing that. I said, I'll go do yoga, because there's the synergy between spiritual breathing, meditation, exercise, etc. You get it all in one. So I said, if you can find a yoga class, I'll go. Never done yoga before in my life, right? She says, I found a place. Okay, I'll meet you there. Never been to the place, never heard of it before. When I get there, I find myself standing under a sign that says, Hot Power Yoga. And I'm thinking, you're trying to kill me. So I go through with it, I go in. About halfway through the class, it's got to be 1,000 degrees in there. And she had told me, maybe you might need a towel. And I was like, why would I need a towel for? She's like, you want to sweat. I'm like, I don't really sweat. I don't need a towel. So I get in there. I've got this yoga mat that I guess I got at Walmart. I've got some sort of warm-up starter NBA basketball pants that I got on. I must have looked like a sight, but in there doing my thing. And my God, it must be the hardest thing I've ever done. This is no joke. This yoga stuff is crazy. I felt like somebody took a glass of water and dumped it on my head. And I'm hunched over trying to do the stuff. They're going way too fast. I don't even know what... They're saying things I don't know what they mean. And they won't explain what they mean. And I got to look around and see what other people are doing so I know what to do. And again, I must have been quite the entertainment for everyone. And just gush and sweat everywhere. And I'm like, I'm never going back. This is ridiculous. This is nuts. But I did go back, and I've been going back. And I guess I'm kind of proud of the fact that I've stuck it out. And it kills me, but I haven't given up. And I guess I'm getting exercise. I only go once a week, right? So how hard is that? Just thought I'd share that with you. With that, that brings us to the final thing. I don't know if I could bring it over here, if I could bring it over there. I'll bring it over here. Let me see if I can get set up for the last thing. This is another excuse why you may have not have seen me as often as you would expect. Bear with me got to bring it over there. It's just easier to do it like that. Alright. See, there goes the throat clearing again. What is... I think I have food allergies. So that's where the throat clearing thing comes from, for those of you that are curious. So if I've just eaten or eaten something... Wow. Do I have a dairy allergy? Hey gang, let's talk about my dairy allergy. Alright, so... I'll start with the tentative cover that I've done. Alright, you ready? Here we go. This is what I'm currently calling Chaos Reigns. This started out being called Dice Leader. It just, you know, even though it was functional, it just was a little too generic. Some might argue this is also generic, but there's a reason. There's a quote by the British gentleman, paratrooper, who before the Normandy drops has said that basically you can expect there to be chaos when we land, and hence the name Chaos Reigns. So British 6th Airborne in Normandy. Now here's the rub. What makes this in particular deal with the British 6th Airborne in Normandy, other than saying, hey, that's the British 6th Airborne in Normandy? Well, nothing yet. This might as well be like gummy bears in Normandy as opposed to a specific unit, but it's the early stages. I'm working on it. But right off the bat, you'll notice there's a lot of dice. That could either intrigue or scare you, or both. But I will admit, there's a lot of dice. Let me take these off of here. There we go, I need these. So again, this is the very early stages. This is something that has evolved over, even though I say early stages, this is something that has evolved over quite a long period of time. I've called it different things, it's had different iterations, but it's all coalesced now, it seems, into this thing, whatever this is. I'm still trying to determine myself. But as I've come to learn in doing these games that I produce, a lot of times, at least with the promising ones, they seem to take on a life of their own. So you may have the intention of designing something that's going to deal with this, or portray this, or do this, and as you get into it, again, the game seems to kind of, I don't want to say design itself, but it definitely has a say in what's going on. Perhaps that sounds strange, but that's been my experience. You can try and force something to do what you want, but it may not. It'll refuse, and you have to adapt accordingly. So, what we have here is Normandy. This is something that's old familiar. I've obviously dealt with this before with the whole platoon leader thing. But we're going back to Normandy. Comfort and familiarity, I guess. And instead of the Americans, we got the British this time, and a very different system than what I or anybody else should be used to coming from me. That said, I would add that there are some similarities to Soldiers of the Sun, but some. So we have 3 British platoons, and potentially, depending on the scenario or the setup, 3 German platoons. Visualize, if you will, the drop. Once that occurs, let's show off this. My God, this is the best dice tray I've ever had, and the thing that makes me proud is I built this. I wish I could mass produce these and give them away to you guys. That's how fond I am of them. To represent the drops, we're going to roll for each of our platoons. So we'll roll 3 dice for first platoon. We get a 6 and a 5 and a 4. What does that represent? That represents the strength of our first platoon after having landed, succumb to any major separation or issues, casualties, injuries, etc. We'll do the same for the next platoon. 1, 3, 3, and it really allows for an element of not just randomness, but there's something to be said for not knowing everything that is going to happen ahead of time. It gives more of a cinematic feel. Then we'll roll for our morale, which abstractly represents leadership, command and control, etc. So here is our basic at-game start setup for the British 6th Airborne. We have 1st Platoon with a strength of 6, 5, and 4. 2nd Platoon with a strength of 1, 3, and 3. Finally, 3rd Platoon with a strength of 5, 4, and 2. Morale is represented by a 4 for the 1st Platoon, a 4 for the 2nd Platoon, and a 2 for the 3rd Platoon. That's all relatively straightforward in my opinion. You're not going to roll for the Germans yet because we haven't run into any Germans yet. I just used German dice for the British, I realized. Pretend like these are, since they're German dice, I guess pretend like these are the Germans. No, we'll have to pretend like those are the British. I already have a casualty here. Again, the benefits of live filming. You know what, this is just too distracting. This needs to be 442. You see how I just got to do it over. I'm too particular to leave it like that. Ooh, I got better rolls anyway here. I've got British dice representing the 6th Airborne, but I have ordered actual 6th Airborne logo dice, which again, it helps you get into the feel of the thing. That's where we need to be. You're going to roll for the amount of... Now this is where a lot of stuff varies. Like I said, this is the early stages. A lot of things are up in the air. But the way I have it is you can roll for the determine the random amount of turns that there are. So if I roll a 6, you would count down 6. Again, this is all subject to change. But that would be currently how you would deal with turns. I also like the idea of sudden death, not knowing when one scenario will end, so random determination to find out when or if a particular scenario ends. Sorry, reading the comments, Jason. Alright. Those of you that are still with me, appreciate that. So this is the British. It looks insignificant, this strip of squares along here, but again, there's a lot that's going to be represented there, not just the turns. Let me cut to victory conditions. There are potentially three types of victory conditions based on a scenario. You can have victory based on sheer numbers of enemy units eliminated. You can have a victory that determines on that if you're able to exit a certain number of troops off of the map. So think of that as a kind of map. And then the third and final victory condition would consist of locating and holding various objectives. So let's say there were 2 objectives here, and as you're moving up each turn with a move, until you're able to secure one or both of those objectives. Then it is determined by how long you're able to hold those objectives. So those are the three potential victory conditions I'm working with. And I'll just say, if you haven't noticed already, this thing is very, very, I don't even know if I'd call it beer and pretzels, maybe just beer. Very stripped down. The whole idea is to create something simple that can be learned quickly, that can be set up quickly, that can be played quickly. Why is that important? I don't know. It seems like a lot of folks are going that route. There's still the hardcore contingent that love more counters the better, the more maps the better. If it takes 7 hours to set up, that's what is wanted. I understand that. I'm going the opposite direction with this. So then we take these guys here, which I'm using to represent first platoon, second platoon, and third platoon. So for the Germans, this would be first platoon, second platoon, and third platoon. I haven't decided yet if I want to do something similar wherein you have a kind of bonus or command point that you can roll for extra actions, or just how I want to work that. But essentially, you're going to start entering the map and making your way down. Now, again, here's where the chits come in. So say, for instance, and you're going to have to move for a platoon move to be represented here. They will have, each squad here, these are 3 squads, will have to all have moved before the platoon movement can be represented over here. To perform a move action, you'll move them up there, which represents having moved. That said, I can now enter platoon 3 on the first square of our quote-unquote map. Having moved there, we need to draw a chit to see if any Germans have been activated. This aspect of the game might and perhaps should be familiar to those of you that have played Platoon Leader, but drawing a great chit means nothing at this point. That said, I can probably just move everybody else onto the map, being that the first space has already been drawn for. Now, to move again, same deal. We're gonna say third platoon, move 3 up to the second space to represent having moved, draw a chit, and we get nothing, etc. Now let's say we draw a red chit, and there are 3 red chits in here to represent the 3 German platoons. Having drawn a red chit will then determine the strength of the German squad, starting with first platoon that we have run into, but not before we determine the placement on the map. So the way I have it now is you really can only activate Germans within the final spot down through 5. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know if that's going to stay like that. It might be more interesting to have the Germans activate anywhere on the map. Although I find it a little harder to understand or comprehend how, having moved up and perhaps secured the territory that you have just moved through, the likelihood of having a German unit pop up behind you, although I guess it could be argued. That said, I've rolled a 5, so we'll place the 1 at the 5. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is where our German platoon currently resides. We need to roll for their strength. we roll. Wow, this is a very strong German platoon based on those rolls. So you could call these veteran units based on the roll. And then we'll roll for the morale. One of the ways that I was doing morale, but I decided to change it, was averaging the 3 strengths of each squad and coming up with a round number to represent morale. Changed that and went just with a separate morale roll to kind of spice things up, make it a little more interesting. So that's the strength of our German platoon, which resides pretty far down. Range here, effective range only lasts up to 6. So we are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these guys are out of firing range. So you can expect a lot of movement to occur. Again, I haven't decided if I'm going to allow fair play, both if you're doing the solo, both sides to be played fairly, or if I'm going to come up with a bona fide engine to determine what the Germans do based on the conditions that currently are in play. This would consist of how close or far away the opposing units are, strength of a platoon, number of platoons in play, etc. Add that to impending victory conditions. This all can have an effect on what the Germans might do if you were to create a kind of, I don't want to call it random, but a kind of solo engine. Not done yet. Having run into some Germans, we need to determine a couple of other things here. Range has already been established. We need to determine cover and line of sight. To do so, again, we roll randomly here, and to represent that, I have a red 6, which represents very poor line of sight. There will always be a line of sight in this game. There will never not be a line of sight, but there are varying degrees of line of sight. There's a kind of degradation that increases or decreases based on the number represented on this die. So a 6 would be the worst possible line of sight. As far as cover, 1 is very poor. Take that back. One is bad. Higher the better. You'll see how that plays in combat. You're going to do this for each, even though there's only one German platoon there, you're going to do this for each British platoon to determine the line of sight and cover they have to the activated German unit. Let's go like this. And that's how you do that. Now, once that happens, you can start with various actions. I have, again, this is all subject to change, random initiative to determine who goes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 total platoons in play. That being the case, we would take 1, 2, 3, 4 chits, put them in a cup, and distribute them starting with the British 1st platoon on down. So perhaps you've already grasped the concept here. And the British will be acting first. How do I know that? Because 3rd platoon drew a 1, that means they'll go first. 1st platoon drew a 2, that means they would go second. And 2nd platoon drew a 3, which means they would go third. Now, I've been playing around with something different as of last night. Having initiative be determined after each platoon acts, and also having, and I've always liked this idea, but I've never been able to effectively introduce it into a game, have a collective community action point pool that either side draws from. So how would that work? You would have a randomly predetermined number of action points represented by cubes, etc., what have you. Determine randomly who goes first. Say, for instance, German 1st platoon wins the initiative. they would then be able to act until they are spent or exhausted. That is to say, they could continue drawing from that shared action pool to perform actions until they couldn't anymore. So potentially, they could go and exhaust the entire pool of actions, and none of the British would be able to go. I don't know if I'm going to use that or not. I haven't played it out enough, but that's an idea I'm considering. And then we have a few other things here. Before we get to combat. So the flavor crystals, if you will, for this would be what the little things that happen throughout a fight. Snipers, surprise, ambush, flanking. And I've decided that you can share the same square. You can move into the same square as an enemy, which creates interesting possibilities. That allows for the potential of, say, perhaps an ambush or surprise or a flank, all of which pretty much amount to die roll modifiers in combat. Another concept that I've been batting around would be having to pre-designate what action your platoon will perform. So before playing out a turn, you have to decide if first platoon is going to move, if they're going to fire, if they're going to rally, or if these two units are going to move and this one's going to fire, etc. Having predetermined what those orders or actions would be, you then have to strictly adhere to those actions regardless of what plays out throughout that turn. Kind of like that idea. So as you can see, I'm really in the feeling out phases of this thing. A lot of decisions to be decided, and once I get those locked down, then I can start fine-tuning the things that I've decided on. Opportunity fire, of course, would be in here. I don't know if I'm going to work that as having to pre-designate a kind of overwatch order in order to benefit from defensive fire, at least without a penalty. Or again, if you're considering a solo type engine for the Germans, their defensive fire would be determined on how far a unit is from said opposing unit before you would be able to determine what the German unit does, if anything. So obviously the further away a unit is when it moves and, say, perhaps fires, the less likely a German unit might be to perform a reaction. Finally, and yes, there's morale checks in here. That's the gist of it, but finally there's combat. Where I'm at currently with combat, and again, this is all subject to change, and in fact, I'm almost positive it will. To fire, you would need to pass a morale check. If passed, you could then fire. To do so, say for instance he wants to fire, you're going to take his 2, which is his fire strength, roll a 1 die 6, add the result of that, take that back 2 die 6. You'll see why in a second. So 2 die 6, roll I got here was a 7, add that to 2, that's a 9, compare that to the range, the cover, and the line of sight. How do you do that? You add them. So the cover is 5, line of sight is 1, that's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. was it 15? 7, 8, 9 is definitely less than 15. So there's nothing going on there. Now, if I had rolled greater than, equal to or greater than the sum total of the range, the cover, and the line of sight, that would yield a result combat-wise. The results, I haven't decided if I want to be kind of like a conflict of heroes or a fighting formation style where all you need to do is get a hit. If you do so, you randomly draw a combat result, or if it's more of a combat results table oriented thing where you have based on how much greater the total of your firepower is than the total of the range, the cover, and the line of sight, determining the extent of the damage inflicted, which can range from morale check to die roll, positive die roll modified morale checks to straight up troop losses. To represent that, say for instance this guy took a hit, you would change that to a 1. His firepower is now less than it was, and that's how you would deal with that. So that's where we are with this thing. I think it has potential. Definitely a lot of work to do. So many decisions, but at the same time, this is the fun part of designing. There's so many possibilities. There's so many avenues that I can choose, and it's really intriguing to consider the potential of this thing regarding the decision tree that I'll be climbing. Again, once a lot of those decisions are locked down, then I can really dig in and start tightening the thing up. But I would encourage any thoughts, questions below this video regarding what I'm currently referring to as Chaos Reigns, which represents British 6th Airborne in Normandy, moving through said territory and encountering German patrols along the way. A somewhat similar theme. This isn't something that I'm a stranger to, but I would add that the way this plays out is something new for me, at least. So yeah, that's Chaos Reigns. So I'm getting near the end of this, and I don't know if anybody's still around, but for those of you that have stuck around, bless your hearts. What do we have here? I don't see any new comments, so anybody has anything to say, I'll hang here for a minute or two, and then I guess I'll cut you guys loose. So if you guys are interested, Blues are playing Winnipeg Jets Wednesday night. I'll be watching. I'm glad we didn't get stuck playing Dallas. I guess I'm glad we didn't get stuck playing Nashville. So, yeah. Alright, I think everybody's probably split, which I don't blame you. You guys can come back and watch the rest of this at your convenience. But again, feel free to post any questions or comments below this video. Thank you guys for watching. And, yeah. We'll keep in touch. And again, I agree. This cool to see what happens during game design. I wish more people, I want to say, would share the evolution of a game as they're designing it, but perhaps make it more visible when they're doing it. Do some YouTube playthroughs of the thing and get feedback from people as you're doing it, and that will help not only you, but ultimately the game. And I will I'll add one thing, Tank Duel, that's going to be coming out soon. If you haven't pre-ordered that yet from GMT, I really like what that thing's becoming, and the designers have been very visible with the evolution of their design, which is appreciated. Take a look at that. There's some YouTube playthrough videos of Tank Duel, Enemy in the Crosshairs on YouTube. There's a number of after action reports on the GMT site for the game. Board Game Geek as well has some things. Just by way of example of being visible and letting people travel along with you throughout the game's evolution and design. Because for me, that's as interesting, if not more so, than the end result is getting there. So, said enough. I'm going to shut up. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you next time.